So this is an interaction I observed in a convenience store the other day. It was a busy day, so there was a bit of a line, and behind me was a couple speaking Spanish to each other. My Spanish is not the best, but I understand enough to overhear them being cute and flirty with each other. Kinda made me smile because ain't love grand? Enter Karen, standing behind them in line, obnoxiously large sunglasses, the classic haircut and red lipstick on her teeth, probably mid-40s. She gets into the line and immediately starts looking visibly annoyed. She grunts and sighs audibly, prompting the boyfriend from the Spanish-speaking couple to turn around. "Hey, is everything all right?" he said in perfect English. Karen gives him a look that could peel paint from the walls and says, "Oh, I'm fine. I just wish people had better standards for themselves. You know speaking Spanish in public makes you seem uneducated, right? Now, my knee-jerk reaction upon overhearing this was to turn around and tell this lady off, but the boyfriend beat me to it. As soon as she said uneducated, the dude's face inexplicably lights up like a Christmas tree. He smiles at her and immediately turns to his girlfriend and starts saying something in French. The girlfriend responds to him, also in French. He turns back to Karen and says, "Is that better?" At this point, I'm giggling to myself because, heck, that was great. But it's not over. Karen stares at the guy, mouth agape, completely speechless. "No, how about this?" he asks, and turns to his girlfriend and asks her something in what's clearly German. The girlfriend laughs and responds also in German. Now, I don't speak French or German, but really, I didn't need to. This was comedy gold. At this point, I'm just busting out laughing. Karen and the other people in line saw me, so I just turned to the boyfriend and simply smiled at him, and then turned to Karen and let off a woof. "He really got you, huh?" I'd paid for my stuff by then, and I leave as I hear the girlfriend ask, "So how many of those languages are you educated in?" Wish I'd stayed around to see the end of the interaction, but I'd already interjected with some wittiness, and confrontations really aren't something I'm looking for in my life. Besides, these two didn't need anyone's help. I'm a 20-year-old female and I have a disorder called epilepsy. Please search it up if you don't know what that is. I was diagnosed at the age of 12 and have had problems with it since. Different kinds of seizures in weird places like the shower, in the middle of class during some of my streams, etc. Backstory: I grew up in a small village that was very popular for tourists. The nature was gorgeous, and there were so many things you could do at any time of the year. During summers, you could take different hikes and stuff. When I was about 15, 16 years old, I moved to a different city away from my parents, though not because of bad parenting, because of my college location. Of course, I did visit them sometimes, like during vacations. Breaks, like summer, winter, you get the point. During one of my summer break visits, I decided to take on a job to see what it was actually like to work. My dad helped me get one by contacting one of his former employees who now was the boss of a restaurant located on the top of a mountain with a beautiful view. They sold pretty simple foods there that I could make while working for them. The staff there were really nice to me, and we all did a little of everything because of the small amount of workers. Sometimes I was the chef, and then a few hours later I would be taking orders or be the bartender for those who wanted non-alcoholic drinks. Little of everything. This restaurant was pretty packed during summer, and almost every table would be taken for at least 4 or 5 hours straight. So we had a lot to do when it came to the food and serving it. It was pretty stressful for little me since I don't do good with loud noises and packed locations, PTSD. Kind of a nightmare in my opinion, but if I was an employee there, then I was going to work. My boss was very nice to me, though, since she knew my dad and my diagnosis. We did have breaks, but they weren't more than 5 minutes long because of everything that needed to be done in this restaurant while it was open. Actual story. One day, a family of 6 walked in while the entire restaurant was packed with people, so much that some of our customers were sitting on the balcony floor while eating. They seemed fine with it, though. After about 7 minutes of me serving some foods and taking orders, giving it to the chef, I heard a super quiet clearing of a throat and turned around to see where it came from. It was from the family whom were now standing in front of the exit door, blocking it. I took a deep breath and walked up to them with a smile on my face. "Hello, ma'am. Okay, she rudely interrupted me, saying, "Oh my gosh, finally, you are so slow." At first I was shocked, but then asked her if she needed help with anything, to which she responded with, "Well, do. Me and my family need a table pronto so that we can sit down and get some food. We've had a very long walk and need to rest, especially my kids." She points to her kids, who looked to be around 10 to 15 years old and just looking at their phones. Even the husband was, not giving a single shiz about what is happening. Well, at this point, Karen was right in my face, beet red and looking like she is going to murder me through poison with the huge amount of perfume radiating from her clothes. I backed away a few steps and said, "I'm sorry, ma'am, but we're packed at this moment. I can't give you a table right now. If you want to, though, you can wait outside the restaurant until I can." If it was even possible, Karen became even more red and screamed at me, "Let me see your manager." "You are being so rude." I started panicking, but did as she said and started looking for my boss, who currently was washing some dishes in the back. I ran over to her and explained the situation. She told me to stay here and that she would handle Karen while I took on the dishes. After a few minutes of washing, my head started to hurt and I was feeling like I needed to sit down or I would collapse at any moment. I knew what was happening and as quickly as I could, took out my phone. I messaged my dad that I was having a seizure and that I needed help because it was getting worse. My dad sent a message that he'd informed my boss and was on the way here to pick me up since I have no way of controlling my body and needed to go home or to the nearest hospital, which was about 5 hours away from where I was. My boss soon came back and told me that I could go home and she would handle my work today. When Dad arrived, he took my hand so that I had support and we started walking towards the exit where Karen and her family were still standing, with Karen digging daggers towards my dad now. Then she decided to make the most stupid decision I have ever heard or seen. Karen walked up to my dad and started yelling at him. "What are you doing dragging her out of the restaurant? She's supposed to be working to get my family a table. Her boss will fire her for doing this." My boss walked up to her and said, "Ma'am, even though this is none of your business, I have allowed her to leave because my employee is having a seizure and needs to go home for some rest." My dad ignored the argument and we kept walking towards the exit. Then, without any kind of notice, Karen grabbed me and started shaking me to prove that I wasn't having a seizure. My dad became furious and pushed her back, hiding me behind him, out of Karen's reach. "Don't you ever touch my daughter again. I will have you effing arrested if you even try to talk to her." My dad shouted extremely loud at Karen so that everyone in the restaurant could hear us. It became completely quiet, and Karen's face was as white as a ghost because she just realized what she had done. My dad then walked out carrying me in his arms to protect me since I was completely helpless now with how long my seizure had been going on for. A few days later, my boss told me that Karen and her family have now been banned from the place, and if they try to come close, my boss will call the cops on them. And I can understand why. Because what Karen had done could actually land her in jail. She had attacked a minor who had a disability. Yikes. This happened about an hour ago, and I'm still smiling about the ridiculousness of the people I encounter. The city I live in is on a lot of lists that contain the words cities to visit in Ninideresi region of Poland, making tourists a daily encounter. This also means Americans. Oh boy, are they a handful. In my region, the temperature was around 37 degrees for all of March and some of April, but not too long ago it spiked to 15-20 degrees, and because of that I'm walking in shorts and a t-shirt pretty much every day, even when there's no sun and it's raining. Some Americans here walk in a goddamn winter coat when it gets to 10 degrees. Every other day I have to walk to school, which I don't complain about. I have only one chem to school when I know some people that drive at 6 a.m. to get here just in time. This also means I try to make it as comfortable as I can, and my walks in a hoodie started being moist town after coming back from school or going to school, so I decided to walk in a t-shirt and short. After leaving my house and getting to the main street's sidewalk, I was looking at the cars passing by. I can tell when someone is a tourist as they don't turn on lights when they're in a car. which must be turned on at all times. It's understandable as most countries around the world don't require daylight. There's a way to show people with your hand that says, "Hey, your lights are off, turn them on," but most tourists, of course, don't understand it. One car I spotted, also with lights off, was the entitled parent's car. When I showed the sign, the father looked at me with confusion. The mother looked offended and looked like she was saying something to the dad. They passed me, but when I looked back, they turned around on a rentable property's driveway, then start gassing their little Skoda to get to me. The mother rolled down her window and started yelling, entitled, "Mother, what the F did you show us back there?" Me, "What?" I said, "What the F was that sign you flashed when we passed?" Me, "Your lights are off. You need to have them on." Entitled, "Mother, I know the law better than you. I'm a goddamn lawyer. You don't tell me what I know and don't know." Me, "Don't be upset when you get a 300 ticket. For context, police in my city does not like tourists." Entitled, "Mother, also, why the hell are you so skimpily dressed?" Me, "It's hot outside." Entitled, "Mother, I'm freezing my butt off talking to you. It's not hot out. Go back to your house and dress accordingly." Me, "I am dressing accordingly. I live here. I'm used to the climate, and so I dress how I feel comfortable in it." Entitled, "Mother, where's your mother?" Me, "Leave me alone. Find someone else to bother." Entitled, "Mother, I'm not done with you. Come back. I'm speaking to you." Me, "Spiadalash turisto jebani. Duck off, you damn tourist," in Polish. The entitled mother knew what I said because she started yelling "ich," what she yelled, but it consisted of F word and B word a lot. I kept walking to school, laughing at how absurd this whole ordeal was. What was their goal? But neither do I care. My family just got off our flight home, and I couldn't wait to write this. We were in the first 10 rows of the plane waiting for the doors to open. Only a few people had the chance to get up when this woman races to the front. At the same time, another passenger was getting up, and this lady cut her off before she could even stand. This passenger, a lady, calls her out. I was a few rows behind, so I couldn't hear what she said, but it was enough for this entitled woman to whip around and scream in her face. "I'm sorry. I didn't have time to wait. My daughter is with a stranger while I've been stuck in Florida for 2 days." She says this while screeching at this lady so loud that the whole flight quiets down for a second. My mom and I are watching this from a few rows back in astonishment. Like, you still have to wait for baggage claim. And what did we just watch? All my mom says is "Karen" before she looks back at her phone. Couldn't agree more, Mom. One of my friends was a massive party animal back in the day. Met a girl, settled down, but every 6 weeks or so he gives me a shout and we go out and have a late night. I used to be like him, but 7 years ago I had to stop drinking due to interaction with some meds I take. I tap out about midnight and he heads off to the club, strip pub, wherever, and continues his night. His wife has always been extremely frosty to me, and I found out why. I met her socially and I thought I'd go over and say hi. While we were chatting, a server came over with a tray of drinks. I declined, saying I didn't drink. The wife asks me about this and I tell the story. From what she said afterwards, turns out Party Animal has been telling her I've been making him go out and get mortaled rather than the other way around. Now, I'm happy to be the bad guy and do it often for my married friends, but I couldn't talk my way out of this one. I did text him to give him a warning, but I've not heard from him since Thursday, so I think he might be under the patio. Oops.